does it mean to be a minion of Milton? It's Milton's woke. They have a cult-like adherence to progressive social orthodoxy, typically exemplified with current elements of cultural Marxist, far-left social, and cultural policies. They viciously attack, without merit, those with whom they politically disagree instead of articulating and persuading others to their position. They are appalled at everything except for their own behavior. Minion of Milton, Lonnie, Poland. With Minion of Milton, Ember Nova Quinn.
Good evening, my name is Ember Quinn. I use they, them pronouns. Milton has a reputation problem. I'm not sure who first said this, but I've heard it recently and it's true. Far too many Milton residents openly mock the idea of diversity and inclusion, and their words on social media and during public forums are hateful, unkind, uncaring, and discriminatory. This is not addressed, it's going to taint all of Milton's future investments, like planting your tomatoes in blighted soil. For example, Milton is exploring an indoor recreation facility. As we know from the presentation, our local taxpayers cannot afford to pay for this facility on our own. Going forward with this project hinges on the promise that we can attract people from other towns to pay to visit our recreation center. This is just one small example, but what's going to happen the first time someone makes a fuss about a transgender person, especially an adult trans feminine person, who wants to use this facility, its restrooms, and its changing rooms? How's that going to be handled in a town where at least one select board member openly and enthusiastically supports two anti-transgender candidates running for school board this year? One could claim they weren't aware of these candidates' anti-transgender platforms, but that would be admitting ignorance. It's on the candidates' organization's website, and it's come from their own mouths during public addresses. I suppose if voters didn't care what happens to transgender people, maybe they could be drawn in by vague promises of fiscal responsibility, increased proficiency, and other buzzwords. Of course, an infamous German dictator once promised financial responsibility and prosperity. It's always harsh to compare anyone to this infamous dictator, but when candidates argue against the existence of certain groups of people, they have to expect that. I can promise you, if I ever sit in one of those seats, and dozens of my supporters ever openly support stripping away a group of people's civil rights, I will not stop until I educate them otherwise. Maybe they'll never vote for me again, but hopefully they'll learn something in the process. Anyway, a public transgender discrimination incident like the one I mentioned would lead to the press getting involved in local social media frenzy, which would be available for everyone, forever online. What's going to happen when the first incident of racial discrimination happens at this facility? Notice I say when and not if. I sadly have no confidence at the present time that this is not an inevitability. Do you honestly think this wouldn't affect people's decisions? Our select board, in fact, every Milton official needs to actively educate their constituents. Do you see what too many of your enthusiastic supporters say on social media? Too many of your supporters laugh at the idea of Black History Month. Too many of your supporters laugh at the idea of people sharing their pronouns, even though our town manager shares his pronouns on his email signature. Maybe you think he's just placating the liberals. Maybe, in fact, he's only doing it when he emails me. I don't know. Maybe if someone in a position of respect, like our town manager, everyone seems to hold in high esteem, told people why he used his pronouns on his email, then maybe people would try to understand. Again, assuming it's not simply to placate me. It's hard to believe it's because it's a trans ally, because actual allies are supposed to actively help us, and I don't see evidence of this. Last year around this time, I believe our town manager said, our planning and zoning team spent a month working on research into the town's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and how to create trackable metrics as we strive to become a more welcoming and inclusive society. There must be more that came from this than simply adding pronouns to an email signature, possibly just when communicating with a transgender non-binary person. You know, I honestly do hope, though, I always used to hope that, if I ever won a position of respect in my community, if those in power ever allowed me to be sworn into office, that people would look at me publicly and earnestly treated with respect by people they respected and treated like a worthy human being, a pierced up, tattooed, queer, non-binary, transgender person, then maybe they'd find in their hearts to respect just about anyone. I say used to hope because honestly hope fails me some days. as it does today. I feel lost when I find myself devoid of hope. I imagine everyone does. Hope needs to stay alive in Milton. Hope needs to be more than just 4-foot-tall letters in a spotlight on Route 7 a couple months out of each year. We need public officials to work to keep hope alive for everyone in our communities. Everyone who holds public office has the responsibility to set an example for their constituents. Have the courage to say Black Lives Matter or explain why you won't. Tell your constituents why we do not celebrate White History Month. Tell your constituents that transgender people are not our ballots, that we're not groomers and degenerates. Being silent may help with your re-election, but it does nothing to fix Milton's reputation problem. We'll never have a prosperous community unless we do so.
Can I talk? Because I think they met me. First of all, when civil unions were voted in many years ago, only 2 of us on the JP list would do them. A lot of my friends are gay, and I think the world of them. When they called me and said, will you do my civil union? I was more than proud to do their civil union. I was treated like garbage. I was put down all over Milton. I was said, had somebody come right in my face and say, you do those things? And I said, yeah, they're my friends. And I just did my first transgender wedding, and I have to tell you, they were a beautiful couple. They're having a baby, and I said, please invite me to your baby shower. So if anybody would ever think, and I never put Ember down, I think he's
It's not me
He
personally,
is a nice person.
but the work never ends.
I think Ember is a very nice person with a big heart, I can tell, just by her speech.
Their speech.
Okay, sorry, I apologize,
You don't have to
really.
apologize, just
I
tell
don't
me,
want to hurt anybody's feelings,
not my feelings.
but I felt like I needed to defend myself and whatever, I don't know. That kind of hurt my feelings, because I know they was pointing at me. So, I apologize if I ever made anybody feel that way.
Is there anyone else here to speak on public forum?
I have to tell you, it really hurts my feelings. I gotta leave a minute, because I like everybody. So, Emma, I'm so sorry if I ever
I
hurt
spend a
you.
lot of time crying too, Brenda, believe me.
I'd like to speak.
In public forum?
I'm Lonnie Poland. I am a candidate for select board. And
Yeah,
I
actually, if you can come up
Sure,
here, because
sorry.
they're having a hard time hearing it.
don't have anything prepared, but I have been thinking about this a lot. And I gotta support what Ember is saying. Brenda is calling people out on Facebook. And she is not being fair. She is, I had a conversation with her about inclusion.
It'd be good to wait until she comes
Yes.
back to hear.
Okay. Is she gonna come back?
Well, when she does, we'll let you
Should I
speak.
sit down?
Yeah, go for it. All right, all right.
Before we go on, I just need you to know, my mother-in-law just died, and I should have stayed at home. Because my mother-in-law for years, but I didn't want to miss my community service to my community. I'm sorry, I apologize. I take this very responsibly. So I'm asking sensitive. I was in their family since 1979. So I apologize to everybody. I feel I need to be here because this is my responsibility.
You don't need to apologize.
I do.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Now that Miss Debbie's back, can we hear from Ms. Poland since you wouldn't allow her to speak initially?
No, sit down. Well, we're gonna let him speak first, and then in between she can go.
Stop the citizen from speaking because a board member absolutely themselves from the meeting. And I'd like to hear from that citizen.
Let it talk.
No, we're gonna finish this first.
Yeah, I don't think we're done with that.
I don't care.
You ready for questions?
Yes.
Feel right.
Line.
Can't take a break.
I know that in 2019, the select board signed the Declaration of Inclusion and Inclusivity. And I know Dawn, you've been working on the DEI training and initiative, but it's not translating. It doesn't seem to be moving off paper and being implemented. And it's apparent on social media. There's divisiveness in this town that is palpable in this very room. Amber is right, the reputation of Milton isn't good. When I tell people that I'm running for select board, to other people outside of this town, they say, wow, thank you, because there's a problem there. And the problem is leadership isn't taking a role in inclusivity. They're not being respectful of all people. You are not creating a welcome environment here in Milton. It's divisive, it's hateful, it's hurtful, it's harmful. And Brenda, I'm sorry if this upsets you. I am sorry for
I
your
just
loss.
don't agree with it. I think
Excuse me.
Milton is
I'm
fabulous.
talking, hey. I'm talking.
I apologize, but I think Milton
No,
is
you have to stop.
welcoming. Okay.
Show respect to our respect.
When you
Sorry.
said,
I said, I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me, Lonnie. I'm
I'm
sorry.
waiting for you to finish so I can finish.
Apologize. I really do.
Please let me speak.
Nothing to be sorry for.
Amber was impassioned when she spoke, as am I right now. Being defensive and having rationale around behaviors that aren't acceptable doesn't help. Saying that I have gay friends or I conducted a gay trans marriage partnership doesn't make outrage on public media, public social media acceptable. There are harmful statements happening. There is hate being spread. You had a
Don't say me. Talk to the board, please.
Okay. Brenda made a comment about being saddened. She said she was very sad because the bank put up a plaque that said, "We are an inclusive setting." And so I commented on Brenda's page that what that meant. That meant that we stand up for people. We want you to feel safe coming here because they recognize that not everybody feels safe in all environments. It was a bold statement. And so I explained that to Brenda. And then 2 weeks went by and I thought it was done. She continued to say, oh, I'm so sad about inclusion statements.
Because I think everybody's
I'm
included.
speaking.
I think we're a very
I'm
inclusive
speaking.
community. Sorry. Because I just love Milton and I'll defend it to the teeth.
That is
Okay.
not loving Milton. That is my point.
And I
Please
like
listen,
everybody.
please listen.
Lonnie, make a statement.
I am making a statement, I keep getting interrupted.
I apologize.
The word inclusion seems to be missed. And it's an important concept. I know that Don understands it because he's been in the training. There was an opportunity for all of you to go into the training and it didn't happen. Brenda has, instead of trying to understand what I was saying, blocked me and just moved the whole thread. There are lots of people in the community and candidates who are being blocked from having communications with our leadership. And I just don't think it's right. And I don't think it's right to be calling out hateful statements on Facebook as a leader and a representative of what Milton stands for.
I'd actually like to say something. Sean Tatro, everybody knows me. First off, Lonnie.
Wait, don't talk to, put her
Okay,
down
I'll talk
either.
to
She has a right to her opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say,
I really
what you
want-
guys do on your private time, on your Facebook pages that aren't business or aren't representatives of this town is your business. It's not anybody else's business, and you're restricting their freedom of speech. You're telling everybody, you gotta take these
She
classes.
represents our town.
John,
During the time that they're in,
Sean, address.
like right now, they do.
John, don't do it. She has the right to her opinion.
She does, and I have the right to my opinion.
I know,
And
but
right
look
now,
at
my
us.
opinion is her sitting here telling everybody else what they have to do. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of listening to people in this community sit here and say that you have to do what I want you to do. You have to take all these classes, you have to do whatever you want. Because if you don't, you're not welcoming people. That's a bunch of BS. In my opinion.
I agree with you. I'd like to say something. I don't think that I have ever, my name's Mary Callahan, I don't think that I've ever seen more cagey behavior, more bullying behavior. I have ample amounts of evidence that show online bullying from the folks who have spoke here tonight, accusing everyone else of being non-inclusive and being bullied, okay? We've all been bullied, we all have a sob story to talk about, okay? No one cares, by the way. I'm tired of people putting labels on people, restricting their speech, and thinking that their way is the best way. Let's not forget that the Inclusion Festival last year was the most non-inclusive gay pride festival that I've ever witnessed, all right? I went to it with my family, we had fun, but it was not an inclusion festival. In fact, the one lonely Bible guy that was there was gawked at and was told that he ruined the whole day because he was there wanting to talk about the Bible. I feel like people really need to look up the definition of inclusion and stop, forcing this agenda down everyone's throat. That is what is causing this divisiveness in this town. Everyone has a right to live the way that they want. No one's the first of anything, okay? I'm 45 years old. I've never witnessed this kind of self-loathing, baby attitude, brattiness, and bulliness, and it's gotta stop. And I'm real tired of it. And everybody can get along or go along to get along until it becomes it's dangerous and it needs to stop. And I'm tired of people bullying people who have been nothing but community service folks in this town, and enough is enough. Thank you.
That said, public forum, is there anyone to speak on an issue that's not on tonight's agenda? All right, you just come on up, state your name, and you've got 5 minutes.
Allison Duquette. I am running for school board, but that is not what I want to talk about tonight. I was at the select board meeting on February 5th and was frankly shocked and appalled at the behavior of candidates for this board towards current board member. The complete lack of compassion for a fellow community member grieving a loved one was difficult to watch. I urge everyone to look up the term struggle session if you don't know what that is. I would have said something that day, but the meeting was already long enough, and my poor son, who has definitely been getting his civics lessons lately, was falling asleep. I also needed to gather my thoughts. Brenda, I want to say publicly that I have gotten to know you a little bit over the last year or so, and while I still don't know you well, what is clear to me is that you are one of the most kind-hearted and generous people that I have had the pleasure to meet. You care deeply for Milton and its residents, and it shows. I moved to Milton about 13 years ago to be with my boyfriend, now husband. I moved here from South Burlington, and honestly, I really didn't want to. Milton did have a reputation for being not that great a place, but in retrospect, I think that it is more a reflection of those looking down on us than a problem with Milton itself. Since being here, I have come to love this town. It is a wonderful, welcoming, and warm place full of great people. The library was the first place I took my son after he was born for story times, and I continue to take him there for great programs. The parks and rec department are awesome and do a fantastic job with programs, events, and camps. Even the post office is hands down the friendliest post office I have ever been in. Milton is a wonderful place to raise a family and an incredibly well-run town. I may not have lived here all of my life like most of you, but I have embraced my family history here. My grandparents lived here when they were first married and had $17 to their name. My grandfather played on the town baseball team back in the days when the town teams challenged each other in the local newspapers. My great-grandmother lived in a house on Main Street, and I do believe there is a street named after her family. Over the past couple of years, I've gotten to know all of you a little bit, and I have great respect for how you manage our town and conduct yourselves as public servants. We may not agree on everything, but I know that you ultimately have the townspeople's best interest in mind with every decision that you make. What some people don't seem to understand is that respect is earned. You cannot demand it of anyone, you cannot win it, you cannot garner it with pity, and certainly no one owes it to you. You all, ladies and gentlemen, have certainly earned my respect, and I think much of the town of Milton agrees. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Go ahead.
Mine's just simple. It's a statement after the February 5th meeting, and I just want everybody to know there's no hard feelings. We're all here for each other in our community, and let me add somebody. I've lived in Milton all my life. I can honestly say there are thousands of other community members who love Milton as I do and feel Milton is welcoming, inclusive community. Personally, I do not want to see this division prolonged. I do want to see us all work together to have a cohesive and positive town because Milton deserves the very best.
Thank you.
That's going to leave a mark. Sadly, more videos will follow.
Just because I disagree with you does not mean that I hate you. We need to relearn that in our society.
They want us to hate each other. Don't let them win. No matter your sex, race, religion, nation of origin, or sexual orientation, we are all Americans. As Americans, we have a cultural tradition of independence. We must always remember, more government is not the solution, but is often the cause of the problem. Find us on YouTube, Rumble, and X.